Everyone, and welcome back to my tarot series. In my last video, which was the first video, I did a little bit of introduction to tarot, sort of an introduction to the entire series, as well as a brief history of tarot. Now I'll make the same disclaimer, as I'll probably make in all my videos, is that I am by no means an expert. I'm actually fairly new. I've only been practicing for a couple of years and I'm still learning a lot. So this isn't exactly an expert coming to you all with information. It's more just something I'm interested in that I want to share with you. And I hope you'll all find it fascinating as well as relaxing. Now you might notice I'm a little off center. That's because I plan on having some visuals pop up on a split screen here and there as I talk about different elements in this video. So that's why I'm not quite centered today. Now, as last video, most of my information and reading is going to come from this book called The Tarot Bible by Sarah Bartlett. And it has a wealth of information, so that should help us out with some explanations. So for today, we're going to talk about the major arcana, and we're going to focus on the first card in the major arcana, or rather card 0, the Fool. But before we get started, as we talk about the different cards, I'll be showing them to you from my decks, and I have 3 tarot decks. This is actually the second deck I ever owned, and this is the Mother Peace Tarot. And this is a mini version. The actual version is a bit bigger. This was a gift, I think from last October from one of my best friends. It was a birthday gift. And this is really cool. For starters, it's unusual because it is a round deck. It has round cards as opposed to the usual rectangular shapes that you find in tarot. The art's really beautiful. The meaning behind it's very beautiful. There's so many decks out there. It's really cool to explore them. And it comes with this booklet that had a really wonderful intro. And in the intro it talks about the tarot, the art, goddess history, how to use the tarot, different layouts. Now this is the most recent pack I bought. And it's the most traditional, so maybe I should have started with it, but I'm always a little bit different, I guess. This is also known as the Waite Tarot or the Rider-Waite Tarot, and the artwork is designed by Pamela Coleman Smith. And this is the most classic imagery that you find when people talk about tarot, and it's known as one of the, I probably mentioned this in the history of tarot, but this was the first deck. I think it was around 1901 or so, that used images not only for the major arcana, but also for the minor arcana, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. And the first deck I ever owned, so I'm very attached to it, is this deck. And it's the Wild Unknown Tarot. And it has really, really beautiful imagery. And just like the Mother Peace deck, it comes with its own guidebook, which talks a bit the different images. So I just wanted to show you briefly all of my tarot decks. So now we are going to learn about the major arcana. Now I could explain it to you, but I think this book will do a slightly better job at that. So, the Tarot Bible. And this is Understanding the Major Arcana. The major arcana, meaning great or big secrets, represent the most fundamental energies of life. The cards symbolize our most basic issues, our inner world, underlying motivations. These are the 22 qualities, so there's 22 cards, or archetypes that permeate all mankind, and they draw out deep and complex reactions in us all. Think about whether you are spooked by death, allured by the lovers, indifferent to temperance, angered by the devil. And those are all major arcana cards. We all carry these archetypes within us. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If you can avoid projecting negative or positive values onto the cards, the rich symbolism will provide you with greater self-knowledge, as well as guidance on how to take responsibility for your own destiny. These cards represent you. The 22 major arcana represent deep archetypal influences and qualities at work in both the individual and the society at large. But the cards also express unconscious and conscious psychological aspects of yourself. For each card within this chapter, you will find the following information. Each card has a name. Some are simply ideas or themes, such as temperance, judgment, and strength, while others are individuals who personify a particular quality, such as the Hierophant or the Magician. The moon, sun, and star represent deeper, more esoteric, unconscious forces. Each card has a number known as the Arcanum. I'm saying that wrong. The major arcana are numbered 1 through 21, plus the Fool, who has no number, but is sometimes referred to as 0. Each of the major arcana interpretations is accompanied by astrological and numerical correspondences. Each card has keywords and phrases to help you identify the main theme or feel of the card. These brief phrases describe how the energy of the card is manifest. For example, the Fool's keywords suggest going on a personal quest. Okay, so what I think is interesting, and I think this book talks about it, but when doing a reading, when we get major arcana cards, and again, there are these like big, powerful cards, there's 22 of them in the deck. They tend to represent bigger life changes, things that might take course over months or years, where the minor arcana sometimes reflect more immediate or more subtle aspects of ourselves or the world/people around us. But let's move on to number 1, which is, and I'm going to show you the imagery of the Fool from 3 different cards so you can see how they differ, and there's so many decks out there. So this is just the imagery, and then after I show it to you briefly, I'll probably have it up here for you to see as an image while I talk about it. So let's start with Mother Peace. Alright, so it took a bit of searching, but this is the card in the Mother of Peace deck, 0, the Fool. And we can see the imagery here as we have, looks like a gentleman, although I think usually it's women that are depicted in the cards, foolishly about to cross this stream. There's different animals surrounding this person, and they're just bounding across the water towards their destiny, I suppose. So that's really interesting. Put that aside. I'm going to show you the Fool card in this Wild Unknown Tarot. So this is the Fool card as depicted in the Wild Unknown Tarot. You can see just a little baby chick, a little baby bird, all uncertain and fresh going into the world. So that's the imagery for the Fool card in the Wild Unknown Tarot. And now last but not least, let's look at the Fool card in the traditional Rider Tarot deck. All right, here is the imagery, the card, for the Fool card in the traditional Rider Waite deck. And sorry, there's a bit of shine, but I'll be having images, like I said, popped up next to me so you can see it better. You can see this foolish person walking towards the cliff joyfully, not even paying attention. So I'm going to read for the Wild Unknown and Mother Peace their interpretations of the Fool card. And then we're going to read in depth about the Fool card in this Tarot Bible book. So here's the interpretation based on the Mother of Peace deck. And I'll have the card right up here. The Fool is off on an adventure. It is a she. She wants to cross the river walking on her hands. The cat is testing the water to make sure it's not too deep to cross. The Fool wants to see the mushrooms on the other side. The mushrooms are deadly if approached incorrectly. The pygmy crocodile already warned the Fool of possible dangers. The Fool's only possession is a bag of truth painted with an open eye. She rings the bells and shakes the peacock feather to call in the goddess. The goddess comes as a griffin vulture to bless the journey at the beginning of a new day. So that's a little bit about the interpretation on the Mother Peace Tarot. Now let's read about the interpretation, or what the Wild Unknown Tarot has to say. And I'll have that image pop up right next to me. The Fool. Spontaneity, innocence. The Fool is ready to fly. His young wings ache for flight, and with a single step, he leaves behind the comfort of the nest to begin the journey through the major arcana. Is he ready? Will he fall? This is a card about beginnings. It points to the side of you that is spontaneous, excited, naive, and inexperienced. Others may doubt your abilities. Be ready to be called the Fool. Be ready to fall. No matter what people say about you, this is your journey, and it's already begun. So that's a little bit about the Fool in this Wild Unknown interpretation. Now I'm going to pop up the Rider Waite deck. Now the deck does come with a little pamphlet, but it just has a very short blurb about the Fool. It just says some keywords: folly, mania, extravagance, intoxication, delirium, frenzy, and bewrayment. But this deck really gives more in-depth to the general universal interpretation of the Fool card. So let's read about it. So it's number 0, or usually known as number 0, and its zodiac affinity is Uranus. The keywords are impulse, infatuation, blind to the truth, childlike, pure and uncorrupt. And its key phrases are the eternal optimist, ready to leap into anything, taking each adventure as it comes, spontaneous and carefree, going on a personal quest, impulsively setting off into the unknown. The Fool usually implies new beginnings and childlike enthusiasm for life. This card represents the part of yourself that comes to life when you need adventure, fall in love, or are looking for quick answers. The inner child or crazy fool who acts without thinking, unafraid of the unknown, and ready to leap in at the deep end. The Fool always signifies the unpredictable, that life is full of surprises and that anything goes. It can indicate that it is time to let go of worries and self-doubt, to take a leap of faith rather than fear making a choice. In a relationship issue, watch out for falling in love with love and not looking where a relationship is heading. This card can also imply you have an immature attitude towards relationships or your professional abilities. Perhaps you are avoiding responsibility. The Fool can mean that you won't listen to anyone's advice and that you are being careless with promises and feelings. You may be blind to future heartaches or rush into a new venture too soon without thinking things through. The main feeling behind this card is a warning to look before you leap. But if you are confused about making a decision, the Fool implies that it's time to believe in yourself and trust your heart. Sometimes resistance is more foolish than risk. If the Fool appears in a future outcome position, and future outcome is just a certain way if you're doing a 3-card spread, past, present, future, that's what they're referring to, then it can signal a new beginning or change of direction. Perhaps an irresponsible, wild, inhibited lover, friend or stranger will become important in your life. In any question concerned with sexual intimacy, the Fool represents erotic vitality, but also a reluctance to make any commitments. So that's a bit of the more in-depth traditional interpretation of the Fool card. And as the trucks get very loud outside, I think that's where I'll leave you for today. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction to the major arcana with the Fool card. Here's one of the Fool cards. Where did I put the other? Here's another one. And yes, the Fool card. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please leave your comments below if you're into tarot yourself and you have your own interpretations or any advice, or even if you're not into tarot, if you're enjoying this series, or if you have any suggestions of how you'd like me to structure these videos, I'm all ears. And until next time, I'll see you all soon. Bye.